So welcome to our phase 3 of our project, that is sandcasting and machining. So what we did first was the machining part, in which we took our piece from phase number 2 and we removed the initiator that we used in the last phase. Then we polish it a little bit, and using milling we made it to have fine details and to be smooth, and to remove all the roughness from the surface. This piece was the one that we were gonna use as a pattern for sandcasting, and so this was our final piece. As you can see, it's pretty smooth. It's pretty nice, and this was the one that we used in order to do the sandcasting, which was the next part of our project. The first part was to do our own flask. This because the flask in the lab were really small, so we started cutting the wood in order to create this flask. So we created this really nice flask with some screws, and this was the flask that we were gonna use for sandcasting. The first part after doing the flask was to prepare the sand, and so we grabbed some sand, we filter it so we could just get the smallest grains from the sand. And then we also had some bentonite, which is the one that the Marcelino is pouring in the base. And after pouring a certain quantity of bentonite, what we did was to mix it. So we started mixing it first, ensuring that the bentonite and the sand were correctly mixed, and then we add some water, and then we started mixing again and letting it getting dry for a couple of minutes. And after that we started putting it in our flask. So we put the knife in the bottom of the flask, and then we started putting some sand over it and compacting the sand so it actually resists as a whole, that it doesn't break down easily. So after pouring a lot of sand and doing that for both parts of our flask, having finished with both parts of the flask, what we did was to put on our mini metal foundry to melt some aluminum, and then pour it in our flask that we made the riser. And we poured the metal into the hole down a channel. As we can see there in the picture, there's a little channel of aluminum that was previously just space. And then we removed our piece from the mold, getting our final knife. So actually this process was a little bit less satisfying, the result. This due to the fact that we think that there was the creation of bubbles because of some space. And here we have the comparison between our two different knives. So thank you very much, and